of the NHK World Japan network, broadcasting from Tokyo. We are now starting our broadcast in English. For details of our schedule, please visit our website at nhk.jp/rj. We are always pleased to receive your comments and suggestions through our website or via mail. Our address is English Service, NHK World Japan, Tokyo 150-8001, Japan. Please stay tuned.
This is NHK World Japan. We bring you the news from Radio Japan on Tuesday, March 24th. I'm Hiroko Kisadai.
And I'm Fumiko Konoye.
In our top stories, Toyota Motor and Japanese telecom giant NTT are forming a capital tie-up to advance developments toward a so-called smart city.
Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is preparing to have a teleconference with the head of the International Olympic Committee.
And the head of the World Health Organization has warned that the coronavirus pandemic is accelerating. Now the news in detail. Toyota Motor and Japanese telecom giant NTT are forming a capital tie-up to advance developments toward a so-called smart city. The project is expected to incorporate the latest artificial intelligence and environmental technologies. Sources tell NHK that the two companies will take nearly $2 billion of each other's shares. The two companies will hold a news conference later today. The tie-up would combine Toyota's next-generation auto technologies like self-driving with NTT's expertise in communications infrastructure. The two firms will team up on a wide range of mobile services. The project is expected to move beyond the current standard of 5G network connectivity into the world of 6G. Automakers have been in an intense global race for advanced technologies known as CASE. This refers to connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. In the telecom field, competition has also been fierce over services that can instantly deliver massive amounts of data. With this tie-up, the two industry leaders appear to be aiming for a leading global role in developing eco-friendly cities.
Share prices on the Tokyo Exchange surged more than 1,100 points in Tuesday's morning session. The Bank of Japan's daily purchases of exchange-traded funds to prop up financial markets put investors in a buying mood. The Nikkei average ended the session at 18,026. That's 1,138 points higher than Monday's close, and the biggest intraday rise this year. The BOJ is aiming to double its ETF purchases to 12 trillion yen a year. As of Monday, the central bank had purchased more than 200 billion yen in 2 straight business days. Another reason for the surge is SoftBank Group. Investors are buying its shares again after it announced plans to strengthen its balance sheet.
Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is preparing to have a teleconference with the head of the International Olympic Committee. Tokyo plans to ask the IOC to make a decision as quickly as possible on how the Games should be handled amid the coronavirus pandemic. Abe wants to discuss the matter with IOC President Thomas Bach, while joined by the head of the Tokyo Olympic Organizing Committee and the governor of Tokyo. The development comes after Bach said he is confident that a decision will be finalized within the next 4 weeks. Abe has acknowledged that the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics may have to be postponed if they cannot be held in a complete form. He told a Diet Committee on Monday that he doesn't think the world is now in a situation to stage the Games. Meanwhile, the IOC has ruled out a cancellation of the Games, a move that comes as a relief to Tokyo. Japanese government officials say their efforts to avert the cancellation bore fruit. Earlier this month, Abe explained Japan's stance in a phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump, as well as in a video conference with his group of 7 peers. The Japanese government plans to ask that the IOC promptly begin work on a new schedule if the Games are delayed.
NHK has learned that the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee has decided not to hold a torch relay, but will instead use a lantern to carry the Olympic flame across Japan. Officials close to the matter say the committee decided the torch relay won't come until it reaches a final conclusion with the International Olympic Committee on whether or not to postpone the Games. The flame is expected to travel across Japan after being transferred into a lantern. The officials say the committee made the decision taking into consideration that it started discussions with the IOC about the Tokyo 2020 Games, including possible postponement. The decision is also aimed at preventing the spread of the coronavirus, as a torch relay would draw a large crowd of people along the course. The Olympic flame was lit in Greece on March 12th and arrived in Japan on Friday. The flame will travel across the country, starting in Fukushima on Thursday, after being displayed in Fukushima and 2 other prefectures in northeastern Japan that were devastated by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. The organizing committee plans to scale down the Olympic flame ceremony in Fukushima and hold it without spectators.
You're listening to Radio Japan of the NHK World Japan Network. The U.S. Federal Reserve has pledged further action to help markets function smoothly amid worries about the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The Fed said in a statement on Monday that it will purchase Treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities in the amounts needed to support smooth market functioning. This means that the U.S. Central Bank's asset buying program will go beyond the amounts it pledged to purchase on March 15th. Earlier this month, the bank slashed interest rates to near zero, but market uncertainty is still growing as financial institutions are moving to hoard the U.S. currency. The latest move is seen as an attempt by the Fed to prevent the type of financial shock seen in the global financial crisis of 2008.
Finance ministers and central bankers from the group of 20 countries have discussed responses to the coronavirus pandemic. They held an emergency teleconference on Monday. Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso and Bank of Japan Governor Haruhiko Kuroda participated. Aso later told reporters that the G20 countries are seriously concerned about the impact the pandemic is having on markets and economies and the humanitarian tragedy it is creating. He said the G20 members have an important role to play. He added that they are determined to take all possible measures without hesitation to overcome the crisis. Aso said the development of coronavirus medicines will be the key to overcoming the current situation. He called on countries to work together to develop them in order to make the process more efficient. The finance minister also insisted that countries should implement sufficient economic and fiscal measures. He stressed that the G20 members should provide support to countries with poor medical services in cooperation with organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Aso also revealed a plan for the G20 leaders to hold a teleconference call as early as this week.
The head of the World Health Organization has warned that the coronavirus pandemic is accelerating. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus spoke with reporters in Geneva on Monday. He said that more than 300,000 cases have been reported around the world, and almost every country has been affected. Tedros said it took 67 days for the number of cases to reach 100,000, 11 more days to hit 200,000, and only 4 more days to reach 300,000. He stressed the importance of social distancing measures. He also emphasized that people should be called on to stay indoors. Tedros said he is aware of large numbers of infections among health workers around the world. He said, even if we do everything else right, if we don't prioritize protecting health workers, many people will die because the health worker who could have saved their life is sick. He called for political commitments and coordination among countries to address global shortages of life-saving tools like surgical masks.
Hundreds of Japanese travelers have been stranded in Peru after the country suspended international flights due to the new coronavirus pandemic. Japan's foreign ministry says about 230 Japanese nationals have been confined to local hotels and other accommodations. One Japanese woman in her 50s arrived in the Peruvian capital Lima on March 13th as part of a group tour. The group was scheduled to leave Peru on March 20th. But the Peruvian government declared a state of national emergency on March 15th, halting international flights. The woman says she was informed on Thursday by the Japanese embassy in Peru that it has failed to arrange a repatriation flight for Japanese stranded in the country. She says that the situation is tough for the group, especially for those in their 80s. The Japanese Foreign Ministry says it has been communicating with the Peruvian government via the Japanese embassy to arrange a return flight for stranded nationals. The ministry says it has also asked for help from medical institutions in Peru. More than 50 countries around the world had closed their borders and suspended international flights as of Saturday. The ministry plans to work with its embassies in those countries to help repatriate stranded Japanese citizens.
The spread of the new coronavirus across the United States has been disrupting people's lives, forcing schools to shut and many employees to work from home. A U.S. education magazine estimates that roughly 120,000 public and private schools in 46 states and Washington, D.C. have been closed temporarily, affecting 54.5 million students. By Monday, New York, California, and 10 other states ordered all employees in non-essential businesses to work from home. Exceptions include police, medical personnel, and supermarket staff. ABC News says another 6 states, including Massachusetts, are expected to implement a similar measure by Wednesday. As of Monday, the U.S. has reported a nationwide total of more than 41,000 cases, the third largest number of infections following China and Italy.
A U.S. university conducting a clinical trial of a possible treatment for the new coronavirus says the initial results could be available in 2 to 3 weeks. Dr. Andrea Khalil is an infectious disease specialist at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. His team is testing the experimental Ebola drug remdesivir as part of a program led by the National Institutes of Health. Khalil says so far 80 patients are taking part in the trial, with half of them given the drug and the other half a placebo. He said his team should be able to examine the results of the first 100 patients in the next 2 to 3 weeks. However, Khalil warned that the experimental drug has unwanted side effects. He said giving any medication that is not tested and approved to know if it is safe would create more risk than benefit for patients with mild symptoms. He said the drug should only be used for patients with a high risk of death. Khalil said 20 to 30% of his hospital patients required 1 or 2 weeks of treatment in intensive care units. He said that if the medical system gets overwhelmed, patients in need will have difficulty finding a bed in the ICU. Khalil highlighted the need to prevent a surge in the number of coronavirus patients. He said this can really become a disaster in any place on the planet.
French experts say a European clinical trial of 4 experimental treatments for the new coronavirus began on Sunday. The French National Institute of Health and Medical Research says the trial involves remdesivir, as well as the malaria drug hydroxychloroquine, and a combination of the anti-HIV drugs lopinavir and ritonavir, which will be administered with or without interferon beta. The trial will target 3,200 inpatients in European countries, including France, Britain, Spain, and the Netherlands. The data will be provided to the World Health Organization. French experts said on Monday that an initial analysis on the efficacy of the drugs are expected in 15 days. No effective treatments have been found for the novel coronavirus, although the anti-HIV drugs and flu medications have been given to patients in various countries. And that was the news from Radio Japan of the NHK World Japan Network. I'm Hiroko Kitadai.
And I'm Fumiko Konoye.
Please stay tuned.